What up, fam? This is so weird. I'm using my ring light that I bought myself because your girl reached 100 subscribers. So thank you. And I thought, you know, with every goal that I meet, I purchase something to go back into my channel. So I got a ring light, and I'm really sorry that you have to get all HD with the pause and such. I'm actually also in my nightie, which is relevant to the video, and I've got no bra on. So if you think like, oh, where'd your girls go? Baby, they're down on the floor having a rest. It's been a long day. You obviously know what this video is by the title. I don't think you're that silly. My 10 best sleep tips for baby. I just want to put a disclaimer in there that whatever works for you, you know your baby best. That's what you should do. But if you do want to have a bit of a idea of what you're doing prior to bringing your little precious newborn home, then these are the things that have absolutely helped me. And I've got 2 boys, as some of you may know. If you're new to the channel, hello, welcome. I have a 6-year-old boy and I have a 15-month-old boy. My 6-year-old slept through the night from 6 weeks old. My 15-month-old started sleeping through probably consistently, I would say around the 9-month mark. And prior to that was only waking once from a newborn, brand new spanking newborn. He was sleeping in 4-hour blocks, 6-hour blocks, then 8-hour blocks. So they both have been excellent sleepers. You don't need to attain the goal of sleeping through the night, but obviously the more sleep your baby gets, the more sleep you get, and the happier everybody is all around. It's also really important that they learn how to sleep, because they don't know that. They're new to this world, they're new to everything, and we as the parent have to show them, have to teach them, have to guide them on how to do things. Sleep being one of them. That kind of leads me into tip number 1, thinking about the bigger picture. When I say the bigger picture, that might look different for different people. The bigger picture for me was, I want my kids to be able to self-soothe off to sleep with minimal difficulty and minimal help from me. I want them to be sleeping in their own room, in their own bed. Now, I am not against co-sleeping whatsoever. I've absolutely co-slept with my children when I felt I needed to, in times when they're sick. When Nixon got a little older, when he was going through that phase of like monsters and nightmares and things like that, he slept in my bed for a while, and then I transitioned him back to his room. And I still sit with him now. We have a cuddle and I wait for him to go to sleep. I believe that if it's working for you and it's not disrupting anybody and it's not stressful and you're not walking away from the situation and going, God, I wish that was different, then keep doing it. If it works for you, keep doing it. You need to think about things like, okay, will they be in a bassinet? Will they be in a co-sleeper? Will they be in my room? SIDS guidelines is for them to be in your room until 12 months. So I'm absolutely, you know, recommending you do whatever you need to feel comfortable going to sleep at night, knowing that your baby is safe. We're all parents, we all love our children, we want what's best for them. Yeah, the bigger picture for me is baby goes to sleep on their own, in their own room. I put Nixon into his room when he went through his 4-month sleep regression. He stopped sleeping through the night. He was sleeping 6 till 6. And my partner at the time, his father, said, well, why don't we try putting him in his room? And I said, okay, that scares me, but I'll try it. And we put him in his room, and what do you know? First night slept through. That's when he went to his own room. And the same with Zayd as well. So I kind of just like followed what I did with Nixon, because Nixon was such a good sleeper as a baby. I just replicated those things that I did with Zayd. He was in a bassinet actually right where I'm sitting, and my bed's just there. And it got to the point where, I don't know, I just felt that he was ready to go in there, and I felt that I was ready to give him his own space, and that sort of happened around the 4-month mark as well. That's a really sort of crucial time when they go from being a baby to being more awake, more aware. Their sleep cycles are actually lighter. They wake a lot easier. So for me, it made sense that he graduates to his room, to his cot. Always have the end goal in mind, because the habits that you start in the beginning will definitely pave the way to how they will sleep in the end. That was a really good segue into number 2. Tip number 2, good habits from day 1. I can't stress enough that when you get home with your baby, especially your first one, and you're freaking out, like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Am I going to break it? Do I wash it? What do I do with it? You literally like holding up your baby like, I don't know. What do I do? Good habits from the beginning. And that's why it's so important that if you are pregnant right now, good on you for looking at ways to help your baby sleep when they're here. Being prepared, sort of having the ideas in mind will absolutely help you for sure. Thinking you're just gonna wing it, mums can do that. They're very confident, they're very strong beings, and they can do that. But for those that are sort of a bit more anxious or whatever, it's probably best to get a little bit of preparation happening mentally. When you bring your baby home, most likely they will have day and night confused. They'll sleep all day and you'll think, oh geez, I've got a good sleeper on my hands. No, sweetie. They just think it's sleep time, and then during the night they'll be awake all night and they'll be eating all night because they didn't eat very much during the day. So putting in place good habits from the beginning is beneficial because they like to know what's happening next. Structure and routine is important. You don't need to slot things into specific time frames. However, you can go off their cues with the knowledge of a rough timetable and it work out perfectly. I absolutely would not suggest trying it out from day 1. No. From about 4 months is what I've read. I think it's a good time to be doing that. But really those beginning weeks, especially the first 6, is really just a survival mode. And the things that you're doing then won't necessarily peter off into the rest of their upbringing and their sleep habits. But just be mindful that when you can, try to encourage the good habits. If you need to do something that doesn't correlate with those good habits, then you do it. It is survival mode in the beginning. Number 3, a consistent bedtime routine. I'm not super strict on times and things like that when they're that particular age, but a consistent bedtime routine is absolutely key. You want to have them understand that we do the same thing every night, and that then leads to sleep. So a nice bath, getting in pajamas, having the low light, and keeping that same consistent nighttime routine. The ideal is between 6 and 7. Pretty much any later than 7 o'clock, and that kind of just swings everything out of routine. Obviously, depending on what your family's needs are, so the goal is a 12-hour sleep, right? So if you want them up at a certain time to make sure that you are ready for work and then to go off to work and then to come home, have enough time to wind down and then go to bed. That's how you sort of think of it. But ideal, no later than 7. So if you're aiming for a 6 o'clock bedtime, which is what I would recommend when they're so little, my 15-month-old is still going to bed at 6 o'clock and he wakes up between 6, 7, 7:30 depending on whatever. But 6 o'clock is great. You want to start your routine at 5:30, really slow down that routine so that they are then being asleep by 6 o'clock. And that's the goal. And make sure you do the same thing every night so they know, oh, I'm having a bath. Oh, I'm getting in my pajamas. That must mean I then go to sleep. That's just another way to encourage them into a nice 12-hour long sleep. Tip number 4, in saying that with a consistent bedtime routine, it's also a good idea to wake up at a similar time each day. So if your bedtime is between 6 and 7, then you want to wake up between 6 and 7 so that baby can have that 12-hour period during the day. Let's just say you get up at 6 o'clock and then you're aiming for bedtime at 6 o'clock. Well, what the hell do you do in the middle? When you bring your baby home, they will sleep heaps. What a lot of parents kind of don't understand when they're new, especially up till about 6 months, I would say, is that they're not actually awake that much during the day. Their periods between when they wake and their next sleep is very, very small. I can't quite remember what it is off the top of my head, but it's something along the lines of 1 hour initially for babies, and then 1 hour and a half, and then 2 hours, etc., etc. If you just Google wake periods for babies, that should give you a list by age. You'll soon see cues that baby's getting tired exactly around the times that they're saying. Like, this is just a science. It's incredible, and it just makes such a difference to day sleeps. It's about getting them down before they're really feral crying and they're too tired, they're overtired, and then they only sleep for their first sleep cycle, which is 20 minutes, and then they wake up, and because they were so frazzled to begin with, they're wide awake because they were just so distraught prior to going to sleep. Probably about 15 minutes prior to the time that they should be asleep, that's when you want to pop them into bed. This can be quite difficult for breastfeeding mums to implement because in the beginning, bubs might feed for 45 minutes, but still, that's their awake time. You'll feel like you rarely see your bub in the beginning or rarely see them awake because the window between when they wake up and when they need to go to sleep again is so small. And if your feeding takes up 80% of that time, well, that's so be it. But I'm telling you, it's like, it works. I don't know why, I don't know how, but it works. Day naps are so important. What I have learnt is sleep promotes sleep. The more overtired your child is come bedtime, the harder it is for them to go to sleep and to stay asleep. What I would say though is at the end of the day, make sure there is extra half an hour on top of their wake period prior to bed so that they are that little bit more sleepy and understand that this is the big sleep coming up. Don't ever wake a baby unless it's their last afternoon nap. And if they're getting to a point where they're starting to eat into the period that they should be awake prior to their bedtime, wake them up. Tip number 5, sleep environment. So we want dark, we want cool, we want quiet, we want their bed to be comfortable. The environment needs to be ideal. You will figure out sooner or later whether they prefer it a bit warmer or a bit colder, that sort of thing. So just keep that in mind too. And if you are having them in your room needs to be that ideal environment as well. During the day naps, you want to have it dark, but it doesn't necessarily need to be like pitch black dark. They do need to know the difference between these are day sleeps and these are night sleeps. With my kids, and this could be different for you, I have left doors open purely because I've wanted them to be able to fall asleep with noise going on, noise that they can hear in the house, the TV, the cooking, me and my partner talking, things like that, stuff going on, dogs barking. I want them to be able to sleep with that noise. I've never been one to put them in a completely quiet room and we must be quiet when they go to sleep so that they don't wake up. Well, they will learn to sleep in the environment that you make for them. And that's how they will sleep, and they will need that particular environment to sleep in the future. So if you put them to bed and then you stay quiet as a mouse, Friday night when you have the grandparents over for dinner and you've popped baby down, baby's not going to go to sleep because baby can hear the grandparents. And you don't want to get into a situation where you're having to tell people not to come over after baby goes down because they'll just wake them up. Just saying. Number 6, introduce positive sleep associations. Like I said, good habits from day 1. However, if you kind of just want to not really worry about it in the beginning and wait till around the 4-month mark, that's absolutely fine. But if you want to start self-settling, introducing positive sleep associations can absolutely help you. Things like swaddling to sleep, which I would absolutely recommend from day one. White noise is a good one, comforter, or something like a dummy if you want to use a dummy. I have used a dummy with both kids. It's not been a problem. It may be an issue when it's falling out and you need to keep popping it in. Well, then it's probably not going to be a positive sleep association. Luckily for me, my kids have been able to find their dummies relatively easy and put it back in themselves after a certain amount of time. Or they've woken up, not had it, and not really cared. So at the moment, Zaid has his dummy on like a teddy and it's attached to it, so that in the night time he can feel around for the teddy rather than having to feel around for a dummy. So I've used that. I've used swaddling. I keep the door open so they can hear everything going on. And then this rolls on to my next tip. Tip number 7, introducing sleep keywords. And I would really just do this from day one. So say the same thing every time you put them to bed. I say to Zaid, lay down, close your eyes, it's time for sleep. I say that to him every night. I have since he was a baby, and now he knows that when mummy says that, I go to sleep. And you're probably thinking, you sound crazy, woman. You can't just say something and your baby goes to sleep. No, it's a culmination of all the things: the sleep environment, the bedtime, the day naps. All of these things go together to have a baby that sleeps 6 till 6, 7 till 7. I'm telling you, I've had 2 babies. They both did it, and I've done the same things that I'm telling you now. Positive sleep key words. It's time for bed. Lay down. Close your eyes. Something like, Mummy and Daddy love you. It's time for sleep. That kind of thing. And say it in that really voice. Now, what happens once they're asleep? Night feeds. You're going to have night wakings unless your baby's just amazing and just sleeps through from the get-go, which they might. However, if they don't, and bear in mind Zaid didn't exactly sleep through until around 9-10 months, consistently every night without fail. He had done previously, but consistently 9 to 10 months is when he dropped one nighttime feed that he was down to. In the beginning, he was on 2. He was bottle fed, so that's completely different to being breastfed, because breastfed bubs, they digest everything a lot quicker and they may need to feed every 2 to 3 hours, maybe even less. They'll probably cluster feed in the beginning too because they need to build up that supply. So regardless of how many times you need to wake up in the night and feed your baby, you do it in the room or in the environment that they sleep in. You don't take them away from the environment that they sleep in. You don't talk. You don't make eye contact. You don't move in a way that's even suggests it's time to wake up. You are a ghost. You're feeding your baby, you're changing your baby. When I change nappies in the middle of the night, I keep them in their bed. I change them in their bed because it's less disruptive. Or if little bubbas are beside me, pop them down in front of me on the bed, change, bring up, bottle, back in the bed. So don't take them out of their sleep environment for nighttime feeds. Don't turn on any lights. Just keep everything as quiet as you possibly can. If you need to reassure them, use your sleep words. Bring them back in. Close your eyes. It's time for sleep. Lay down. That's all you're allowed to say. Not this, it's okay, darling. La 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 la. You're okay. Don't cry. Shh. Mama, you don't need to defend what you're doing to your baby. You are teaching them how to sleep and it's the best thing for them. Shush. Now, number 9, teaching independence. Sounds crazy. You've got a newborn baby. How the hell are you going to teach a newborn baby independence? No, don't let them cry. I'm not suggesting that. However, from 4 months onwards, when they first cry, leave them for a little while. And I'm not saying leave them for 10 minutes until they're screaming. I'm meaning like maximum 1 minute. Just give it a second. Perk those ears up, listen to the cry, establish whether it's just a whinge, whether it's a feeding cry, which when they're little it probably will be. Need to change the bum sort of cry. Get to know those cries by giving it a minute. Listen to them, and eventually by just waiting just that tiny wee bit, you're giving your bub some independence, some control of their own sleep. They might yell out twice in a night. If I got up and went to him, that would pretty much mean he'd be up for the next hour or so. I leave him, give him a minute, trust that he knows how to put himself back to sleep now that he's a big boy. He will go back to sleep by just giving it a minute. You don't have to be a horrible mother and, let them cry and cry and cry themselves to sleep. It's not necessary. You don't need to do that to get them to self-settle. Give them a minute. During the day, independence could be mummy needs to have a shower. So pop baby down into their bouncer, tie them all in, pop the bouncer in front of the shower and have a shower. And they might in the beginning freak out like, oh, I'm not touching mummy. It's okay. They're not gonna die. You're allowed to have a 3-minute shower. Bit slits, get out. You're allowed to do that. The best advice a mum ever gave me was your baby's not going to die if you have a shower and then cry. You will be out in a couple of minutes to comfort them. And eventually, what do you know? They'll get used to sitting there in front of you in front of the shower. It's same with the car. They're gonna cry in the car because they're away from you and it's different. And they're used to just seeing you and having the smell around. They will cry and it will be hard to hear. But if you're only going from A to B and it's a 5-minute drive and they're crying, as long as they're not choking or vomiting, use your voice, it's okay. Eventually, they'll understand that at the end of that 5 minutes, you'll be back together and it'll be okay. And what I've found is that independence and building that confidence and self-esteem in themselves from that young age, it helps them be able to be in their room alone at night, be able to self-settle. Anyway, number 10. My last tip is relax and enjoy your baby. At the end of the day, you could have a bub that never sleeps through. Are you going to love them any less? No. Are you going to feel like a failure? Trust me, mums that have babies that sleep through still feel like a failure at times for different things. Nothing is ever going to change the bond that you have with your baby, the love that you have, the care that you have. So relax and enjoy bub, because being relaxed, they'll pick up on that. If you're anxious and you're stressing about bedtime and sleeping, we know you're sleep deprived, but just it's cool. Have a day in bed with Bob. Don't shower. Spend the whole day snuggling. Relax. Enjoy. You can start again tomorrow. But I promise you, if you relax and enjoy your baby, Bob will be happy and Mum will be happy. So that's it. My top 10 tips. This is the most serious video I've ever done and I feel weird. I feel like a teacher or a lecturer and, my only experience is just my own. I'm not accredited to be giving this advice. But they're the things that have worked for me, and if you follow them, you can absolutely have a baby that sleeps through. If you want to learn more about what I actually do in terms of teaching baby to self-settle, I can absolutely do a video on that as well. All right, I'm off to sleep. I'm so tired. I need to wash my hair. I'm going on a holiday tomorrow with my family and I'm going to vlog it and I'm really excited. But now that I've got a ring light, I can do more of this. I hope that was recording because that was really hard. And I have my little notes.